So, first of all, I have a palette laid out that has too many colors in it because I've been working on a commission and I needed all these additional colors. So, I probably won't be using all the colors that I have out, but very quickly I have titanium white, Naples yellow. I actually have a cat orange hue, which I doubt if I'm going to use. Uh, Ochre, I know I'll use. Alizarin, I might use a little bit. Ultramarine blue, I actually have a Prussian blue laid out. And I have a what is that? Radiant blue, light radiant blue, and I probably won't use that. I have a sap green, a burnt umber, and I actually have a Van Dyke brown that I just bought a tube of because it's a darker brown laid out, and I was needing some really darks. So that's the colors I have out. I'm not probably. I'll try and mention if I'm going to change up anything, but I also have an unbleached titanium, which I think I am going to use. So guess what I'm painting today? Wild guess. Come on. I'm going to paint a sheep. Mentioned that last week. Now, this is a area that we walk by when we take a morning walk and we come back on the way back. And every now and then there'll be sheep out there grazing. So I grab some snapshots whenever they're decent. And I've shot several. Pick this because Anna liked the face. All right. So that I don't like the composition. I'm going to change that up a little bit. Well, let's talk about it. 18 by 24, which I've toned to kind of a, oh, if you look at a white, you can see where it's at. So it's not that dissimilar to my own flesh tone, which so it's warm. I had two or three canvases already toned, and I had a cool one, and I like the warm undertones because I got a lot of cools already in here. So let's start drawing and painting. Okay. So I'm going to take this guy. I want to raise him a little bit. I'm going to move him a little to the right and probably close this gap a little bit. So that space, and that space are not equal. All right. So let's start with kind of where I'm going to put the back of that sheep right about there. And I'm going to raise him a little bit. I don't need all the dead space. I'm going to raise him up to about here. So we're going to block in the animal to begin with. Hopefully I have him in a spot where I don't have to do a lot of changes. I'm drawing with a little bit of terp and the Van Dyke brown.
Oh, I forgot that.
What? You forgot the Van Dyke brown on that?
And the palette, yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Animal anatomy. I'm not an expert at it. I know human anatomy quite well. I know I've painted enough animals where I've looked and I've studied it. So I want to, this is a big, bulky, we don't see a lot of the body in the area because all the wool that's on there, but the legs we can see pretty structurally and the face we can see pretty structurally. So I'm going to use, obviously, my reference as a point of accuracy. So we got one leg and we got another leg about here. Front legs are going to sit kind of in this area. And I'm just going to kind of sketch in the positioning of those legs. Probably spend more time on this part of the drawing than any other part, simply because it's the one part we want to have accurate. Like I've said many times, you could take a tree, make it fatter, make it wider, make it taller, trim down, because trees can happen. But when it comes to anatomy, you got to be pretty accurate. And the same, the same is true. I was speaking with one of our instructors last week. Same is true with architecture. Architecture and any anatomical thing, you've got to be pretty true to it. So we're going to start with that. We're going to end up with the head, back of the head. I'm looking for this space, back of the head, where it lines up right about. So I take that line, go straight up. That's where the head, the back of the neck, I should say. It isn't the head. And this cuts in a little bit. And again, I am not assuming I'm 100% correct, because as I lay masses in, I may change it. All right, so the head is going to be in here. And top of the head, where does it sit? About here. And the ear angle. And the ear about here. And the other ear about here. That's my guess, right? So we're going to take the back line, which divides. I'm going to talk a little bit about this as we move into it, but we're going to move it about here. We're going to bring it up. I want a continuity coming through there up here. So it's a little below halfway, which is, I am chopping off. You can probably see a lot of the top. I'm also going to move the tree in a little bit. And we have two trees. And there were some things that I was talking about before we started that I was telling Anna I didn't like. I didn't like this clump, and that clump, this pyramid clump back here. So I'm going to do some revising of shape.
Revising nature.
What?
Revising nature.
Revising nature. That's exactly what I'm doing. And the tree, I kind of like this one tree that overlaps down. Plus, I want to divide this tree a little differently. And we'll just go up there, up here. We don't have to be accurate here. And then all this foliage, it almost touches his head. I'm going to let it come down below his head, right? And you see the fence, that's gone. I don't want that in there at all. So that tree is going to come down about here, down about this point. Then we get some, and then we're going to start to paint. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some of the background. Now I can set it up with a brush. I think I will. I was going to work with a knife. But I'm going to start with kind of an off green, umber, turp to loosen it up. A little bit of maybe ochre into that, and unbleached titanium, a little bit more unbleached titanium. I want to lighten it up enough. Keep a little more green. That's a little too green. So I'll just bring a little more ochre into it. It's a little drier than I want, but I'm going to use that as to let some of that background color come through. So you can add any medium you want. I'm adding a little bit of turf to loosen it up. I could bring a little bit of linseed if I wanted to, or I have a little bit of linseed and solvent-free gel liquid in a container off to the right. So every now and then, as I progress into this thing, I may grab that. I'll try and let you know when I do. But for right now, let's just get a little bit of green, a lot more green than is in this, but I want to liven it up. It's the picture's really dead as far as color goes. So let's give it a little bit more vitality, a little bit more color. They can see what kind of interest they can bring to it.
You're just laying in a tone without really considering the character yet.
Yeah, I kind of want, I initially hadn't thought about it being this dry, but as I began to lay it in, I thought, that's good. I can make that work for me. The dryness. I want it to go a little darker as we move to the right. So I'm going to add a little bit of this Van Dyke brown. Now, Van Dyke brown, it's color I really haven't used a lot in the past, but recently I bought it. It was on sale. And you'd think with all the years I've painted it, I have painted with it before. I just haven't really paid a lot of attention to it. And it's a real dead brown, where burnt umber has got a lot of color. Even raw umber has got a lot of color. Burnt umber having the warmer color, raw umber having the cooler color. Van Dyke, I can't even say it has a warmer, cooler. It's just super neutral. Okay. And so I may find I like it and start using it a lot more. I don't know. That's one of the great things about painting is you're never too old to discover new things that you can use. Sometimes I discover them because someone else tells me about them. And sometimes I discover them because I notice a color and I thought, I think I'm going to try that. So I was picking up supplies not too long ago, and went in and saw this big tube of it. Wasn't real expensive. And I said, yes, let's see what that's like. And it works really well in certain instances. Okay. So far, how do you like it, huh? Nice abstract kind of nothingness. One of the things that I was telling Anna I'm going to do here is, and I'm going to point this out to you guys, this area back behind, which is kind of dry brush, then we have the greenery. This is very similar in color to, and I could run them together, but I don't want to. I'm going to, so that the sheep stands out more and is lighter, I'm going to deepen that, add a little bit more ochre to it. But before I do, I want to get that kind of green in there. So for that sap, I think I'm going to mix Naples yellow light, and it's real brilliant green. So I'm going to bring a little bit of ochre into it because I don't want it that brilliant. Let's see what color we got here. Maybe a little more yellow into it. Okay. I'm going to start with it there. Probably not as dark as I want. I need a little bit more color. So I'm going to bring a little more green into it. A little bit more. Too much probably, but we'll live with it. I like the fact, truthfully, when I put colors down, that I don't always put the same color. I went because, and that has to do with more landscape. Really, I'm searching for a color generally. I refer to it a lot of times with students as color searching, which is literally what I'm doing. And in that search, I try things and I try another color, and every now and then it works and every now and then it doesn't, but I'll just keep coming over it until I get what I want and use the color that's down there as part of. So you use your mistakes. So as long as I'm in the greens, let's stay with the green. Let's deepen it a little bit more sap, and that's going to take it really greeny. So I brought more ochre, so I've eliminated a lot of the white. So it's a lot more green as we move down into that realm. And I'm going to start with that. And we're just going to start. I'm going to start really loose with it. Loose meaning a lot of terp. And I can see there's some sunlight because we get a nice darker shadow. And I am going to use that because I actually like that a lot. And as you're painting, I always say, nature offers you something. All right. You take and you use what you like that it offers you, and what you think you can add your own input into, you change. You augment by maybe through color, value, shape, technique. You begin to change some of it. And it's truthfully, all artists do it, whether they try to do it or not. Simply because, particularly if you're painting plein air, the light changes. There's a lot of changes that occur. If you're painting from a photo, the one mistake can be trying to duplicate everything exactly the way the photo is. First of all, you become kind of I don't know, a glorified photo with some painting technique. But I don't think sometimes you offer some of yourself into the piece. So I always refer to painting from reference as using a photograph. Now, some of that I know for a fact comes from an illustration background, because that's what we did as illustrators. We used reference. We didn't always, very seldom did we use reference identically to the way it was. So we're going to put that kind of shadow in, this kind of shadow color right there. That's what I did. I just took the same green. I added a little bit of ultramarine blue to it. Also, it's going to need some warm throwing. I can't just rely on the blue. I got the right value. Color is not necessarily the right color, but the value is right. And I was talking to a class on Wednesday, I think it was, yeah. And one of the things I was really stressing on that class is be right on the value. If you're off in the color, it's okay, but be right on the value. You can always go back and augment the color. But if you get the value pretty close to the way you want it, then I think it's a lot easier to go back. Like I'm adding a little bit of ochre back into that right now, because I begin to feel it back in here, a little bit in here, a little bit under sheep. a little bit. We're kind of creating the ground plane to a degree up here. Nice abstract strokes that feel good. Make it feel good. I want to get this kind of ochre color. So I've cleaned my brush a little bit, but not a lot. Going to take some white, some unbleached titanium, and some ochre. Now that's way too yellow. So what I'm doing is I'm pressing down and pulling some of that green back out of the brush that I already have in there. Let's test it. I'm going to go a little more ochre. A little more ochre. And we're going to start right here. Now, if you notice, I've got almost the identical value to that green. So it's a little darker than I might want it to be at the very end. But you got to start somewhere. Try to keep this even looser than I normally work. I just felt like it this morning. I don't know why. I may have seen something. Something told me, quit painting so tight. I go through that a lot. I don't know if, I assume other artists do too, where you find yourself and you say, geez, I'm kind of in this one rut and I want to get out of it. And I've always been the kind of artist to try things and really explore, do a lot of exploration. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it makes me feel complete as a painter. So every artist is going to have a different way of approaching the kind of work that they do and their feeling about that kind of work. Sometimes I'm very happy with what I've been doing, and sometimes I go through. I called that when I was a student. I remember my roommate and I, we called it hills and valleys. The hills are the good part, and the valleys are when you feel like, what the hell am I doing? So I kind of have an abstract of what I see in front of me. This value is off, which is okay right now. It's perfectly all right. I don't feel bad about that. I'm going to lay a little bit of the tree in, and then we're going to move on to the sheep. So that tree, I'm going to take the Van Dyke brown because that's a dead color, and mix it kind of into the paint. I don't want it as dark, a pure Van Dyke, because let's see what this looks like. I don't mind that at all. It's a pretty strong statement, huh? We want it. And we want it to go up, get lost, find itself again. One of the things you're going to do when you do things like this is this tree is there, but there's also a lot of foliage in front of it. So I want to paint the tree, but I also want to paint the foliage back on top of it. So I will paint too much of the tree. And then I will come back on top of it later and put the foliage overlapping it. Now, and when I do that, I actually might overlap it too much. And I might have to go back and put more tree in. And then I might put too much tree in. And then I'm going to have to go back and put more. So you understand what I'm getting at. It's a back and forth. It's not a one directional type of painting. So branch up in here. We're just going to kind of indicate where these go. Really so loose. Oh, that's crappy, huh? Oh man, that's bad. Okay. And we're going to get a branch over in here going up. Another one coming down here, going across here. Another one up here, going straight up. I'm just seeing little indications here and there that I'm going to put in, and then I'm probably going to paint over quite a bit of them. Another part of the trunk back in here. That's way too strong. At this point, I don't care. I want it indicated in there, and I want to get enough of it in there so because I know I can come over and cut it down at any particular time. Some more darks. I'm going to step back. This is the first time I've stepped back. Feels okay. That's kind of weird.
I mean, it looks like you're making random strokes, but are they deliberate?
I am making random. I should say, I'm not making random strokes. I actually see what I'm indicating. I see a little branch. I see every now and then. And, I'm guessing. I may be wrong here and there. Maybe. Huh.
So Laura wants to know, how do you move through your valleys?
Good question.
Low points, yeah.
How do you move through your valleys? I don't know. You just do. You just keep working.
She just keeps working, yeah, and slinging stuff out
Yeah.
there.
And you're aware, if you've done it enough, and I know you have, 'cause I know Lorraine's been painting for a long time, so I know you have done this. I won't say every artist has, but you know that eventually it's going to start to click again. And it's just you just got to give it time and work. Sometimes it might not really be a valley. It might just be the way you feel at that moment. And when you look at it later, I mean, it's the same comment that I've made many times about, think about it. You do a painting and you think it's really good. And you look at it 2 days later and you go, what the hell was I thinking? That's not that good. But the same thing happens the other way, where you do a painting and you think, oh crap, that's not that good. And then you look at it. I've done this where I've looked at it almost a year later and I go, hey, there's something there. And so it's your perception at that moment. And you got to realize the more you try things, the more you're probably going to hit those low points, because you're trying something that is a little bit more chancy. And most artists that have painted long enough know where their capabilities are, what they can do. And in that case, you just keep plugging along that line. Example, a gallery show. You're going to do a gallery show. You want to take some chances. Like, I shouldn't say you want to. I generally want to take some chances, but I also want to keep on the tried and true of what people have seen and expect. And so it's not constantly just doing your tricks. It's like doing some things that are a little bit different.
So Julie,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Julie was saying that she tells students there are 4 stages of a painting. 3 are the ugly phase. And you have to just get through those stages.
Boy, are you right. Absolutely.
Trust the process.
Probably more than 4, though. Although, I do have a line that I use. I said, hopefully, no matter what stage you stop at, it looks pretty good.
Stephen wants to know if that's just a small trim house painting brush.
This is the gesso brush from Blick that I bought. And it's just for laying. I get nice the edges that I get with this are a little bit more clumsy, and which I want in the beginning, because I like some of that stuff to come through at the end. And I'm just trying things. Now I'm standing back for a second. Looks better from back here, about 5 feet back, which is good. That's generally the case. All right, there's little twigs here and there, which I can add at the end, okay? It's starting to come along. I do need to get this tree in before I get over to this guy. So let's get that tree in. It's light up here. I'm going to keep some of that as is. And it has a little bit more, it's a little bit lighter. So I'm going to take one of my blues. In this case, I think it's the Radiant Blue, and mix it in with the Van Dyke Brown, see what color that is. Yeah, not bad. I'm going to add a little medium to that. Medium meaning, in this case, a little bit of my mixture of solvent-free gel, and I want a little warmer, throw a little burnt umber into that. There we go. Started pretty good color-wise. There's some darker darks in it, but this is going to be my base color I'm going to work off of. It gets pretty dark, so I'm going to go back to my Van Dyke and bring a little ultramarine into it. And I'm going to bring this branch down here over, then join it into this. Okay, and there's another little bit more of the blue is another branch I just caught that kind of goes off this direction, goes up. I'm looking past the barbed wire now, right up in that region. Some lights on it, but we'll get those in later. Go back to the darks. Now we'll get some darks, a little warmer. I'm going to bring some umber back into that color. Let's just kind of touch lightly the brush down and add some dark character back in that tree in the foreground, because I do see some. Okay. Nice smacks of darks up in here. That feels okay. Okay. Haven't hit that brush in there yet. Might as well do it right now. I just took whatever I had in my brush. I mixed some ochre into it. Let me try that. That's not bad. This is, remember, I don't like what I see, so I'm changing edges and shapes. Down about it.
So Stephen was asking if you use a disposable palette. He uses a large piece of thick glass and
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually have a bunch of them you can show. My palette, that's a great question. I've never talked about that, I don't think. Much to a detriment. I started this years ago. I work on a glass palette. Now, the reason I do is I can clean it easily, and the paint glides on it very easily. But the glass palette, the way I make them. I mean, I assume you can probably buy certain ones. I know people buy what they call the Widow's something or other. I don't even know what it's called. I don't use it. But what I do is I get a piece. In this case, it's a piece of 24 by 24 plywood, and along with that, or on top of that, I get a piece of 24 by 24 glass cut. All right. And I mount it down, or I paint the plywood kind of a neutral light gray. And then I take the palette and take the glass, I lay it on top after it's dry, because the neutral light gray I do in acrylic, by the way. What I end up doing is, excuse me, I'm thinking while I'm talking. What I end up doing is mounting the glass on top of the gray plexi, or excuse me, not gray plexi. I got a plexi because I use plexi a lot when I paint on location, because my palettes break, so I don't want to. But what I'll do is I'll use that, and in doing so, you mount it down, and then I take duct tape and I tape it down really good with duct tape.
All around the edges.
All around the edges. And then I clean it at the end of, usually with a scraper, razor blade scraper. And you can clean your palette really easily, even if you let it dry. Sometimes let it dry for too long and you have to go back and do a little bit more work on it. But generally, yeah, it's not dark enough.
And you mentioned the planar ones you use.
The planar one, I started using this kind of gray or milky plexi. And it's because what I've learned in traveling, particularly overseas, is I have broken glass. I don't know if I did, but I've had students do it. So I started using and it's also lighter. It's much lighter in weight. So I like it a lot. And the trick is, I don't like the paint to set and get too dry for too long on it, where on a glass palette, it can dry for a year and you can go back and fix it. Okay, let's start to get the shape in, because I've wasted about 30 minutes on the background. So I'm going to take what have I got here? About a number 6. Let me see if I can find a number 8. I think it's a number 8 rosemary, probably. And we're going to start to block in some of that sheet. Let's do the dark first, because the dark is going to give us a drawing.
Stephen wants to know if you ever add a dryer to your medium.
Okay, yeah, I have a solvent-free gel off to the left. Yes, I do. How often? Oh, boy, I can't tell you. Generally, oil dries fast enough for me. It doesn't. People keep thinking oil dries so slow. I don't think so. I know I've mentioned that for years, really almost the first 20 years of my career and most of my schooling, I painted in acrylics. When I was first in school, we painted gouache. So there's a big gouache craze going on. I did that in the 60s, and it's a neat medium. And then I got hooked on acrylics, and acrylics dries faster. You can't mess it up. So if you sneeze on it, doesn't hurt anything. And so I painted in acrylics for a long time. And also from an illustrator's point of view, acrylics you could change very easily. So if all of a sudden a client changed their mind, or all of a sudden they came in and they said they needed something a little different, I could go back and wipe it out in acrylics in a heartbeat and go back and repaint. I couldn't do that in oils. You can wipe it out, but if you want to go back and start repainting on it, it makes it really rough, because you're basically fighting wet paint. So for me, acrylics was the way to go. And since then, I've discovered just recently, Chuck Pyle, a friend of mine, introduced me to something called acrylic gouache. And he sent me over a set. I tried it. I liked it. I went out and bought a set by Holbein. And I love the medium. It's terrific. It really is. I've got that leg misplaced. That leg needs to be over here. So bring it over just a little bit. There we go. We'll bring this one right here. And if I have them in the wrong spot, I'll fix them. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Let me explain why really quickly. If you are, you're going to be very timid. If you're very timid, it shows in the way you put your paint down. So you're much better off to be bold, be wrong, and then fix it, than you are to be really timid. Oh, let me stand back. How does that look? It's a little off. I have the legs a little forward, so I'm going to bring that head a little forward. I want that leg back a little bit further. I should have looked a little bit earlier, and I didn't. So that straight part of his leg, if I go straight up, is right here. So I'm close, but I'm off enough where it bothers me. So fix it like that. Okay. Back legs look pretty good. Back legs look okay. So let's take that. Now let's build in. I'm going to add unbleached titanium to that color. And that went a little cold on me, so I'm bringing in some burnt umber. And that's just about right. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this part in. That's just about right.
Stephen said he worked with acrylics and gouache as an illustrator as well, and even use the hair dryer to dry it quickly.
Yeah,
which I know you've done.
I did too. Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because working with people that are using it for the first time, it dries so fast. And for me, very often, as was just said, it didn't dry fast enough. So I use a hair dryer at times.
With acrylics.
Yeah, and acrylic. So we're just gonna lay in some of this. Let me get back here. Shape it up okay. Head's a little bit too big, but that's perfectly. I was gonna say it's perfectly normal. It's not. It's not perfectly normal. It's just basically wrong. So let's cut that down a little bit right about there. Sometimes you do that. Oh, see, I like the look of that. That edge is better than if I had had it right the first time. That's something that I have learned over the years is, and that goes back to not being afraid to be wrong, um, is that truthfully, if you just take some chances, you learn, you learn more. In other words, I have enough confidence that I can usually know I can pull off a painting. And that's where does that come from? Okay, that comes from years of painting. So it's not something you pick up. You go to the art store and you buy confidence. That'd be cool if you could, huh? That only comes from practice. You know, that I just posted something and somebody said, really nice comment about it looking like magic when I do it. And the reason I say that's a nice compliment is that's kind of how I felt when I first time I saw Don Putman work. And I realized it's not magic, man. It's practice. There is no way that you just automatically have that gift. Boy, I hope not. It took me too damn long to literally get to the point where I could paint where I actually liked what I did. And it was very frustrating as a young artist, particularly as a student, simply because my drawings looked okay. It's just that my paintings didn't. And that's just one of those things. I'm laughing because, you know, when you're 20 and you're trying it, or hell, for that matter, if you're 40 and you're trying it, it really doesn't have to do anything with age. It really has to do more with experience. And it's one of the hardest things I find as an instructor to instill that understanding to students so that they understand that keep at it and you're going to get it. Now, how I came up with that conclusion is watching students. I remember when I was first teaching back in the 74, and would have a student and they, you know, all semester long they'd work and it just wasn't that good. And I just naively assumed, well, that student's just not that good. Right? Man, was I wrong. Because I've seen so many of those people turn out to be fabulous artists. Just, you know, don't judge too quickly. You, I'm going to go back to something I heard. How's it shaping up, by the way? Yeah, I'm not real crazy about it. See if I can fix that. The sheep looks too scrawny, so I'm going to take. I want to go back to what I was going to say though. Some thicker paint. We're going to take, whereas we're going to bring the side of him out here. Okay, I don't know what the hell I was talking about.
Well, let me ask you a question. Barbara wanted to know if you follow CW Monday. That
do I follow him? No, I know his work. I don't
yeah,
know him, but I know
he's doing different things.
Yeah, yeah. He started. The first work I ever saw is years ago. I wasn't a big fan of, and because it looked like he was just taking scraping and doing stuff. But over the years, I've seen this guy knows what he's doing. I'm just a fan of guys that do good art. You know, one of the best things about, for me, is ex-students. Ex-students, man, it does your heart so good to see guys be able that you had in class and hopefully had some sort of help influence in to turn around and start doing some really terrific art. I mean, that is really, and I know if any of you guys are teachers listening, and I know Anna, I know feels the same way being a teacher, that it's hard to describe how important that is. from an instructor's point of view. And I was just naive as an instructor, when I was first starting, not realizing, because I had never watched people. The only people I had seen is people I had gone to school with. And some of those guys that were absolutely excellent students were, man, I've had guys in class that have gone out and done such fantastic things. Richard Bunkle comes to mind, who unfortunately passed away at a fairly young age. But in the amount of time he was working, he just nailed it, man. He just nailed, and he was in the very first or second class I ever had when I was a teacher at Art Center.
You taught.
I didn't teach him. I mean, he was in my class.
Oh.
I don't ever consider I teach people. They get it from a variety of artists. No great artist gets it generally from one person. So, we happen to have a wonderful staff of painters there at the time who've all gone out and done great things. Richard came and started teaching, actually. I think he taught Anna when Anna was there.
Yeah.
And, then we had Dan McCaw was there with me, John Assar, all these guys. Man, it was wonderful to be able to work with these great artists and form friendships with these fabulous artists. And I was fortunate to form friendships with some of my my mentors, Don Putman, Joe Henniger. Those guys really influenced me in the fact that I could watch them work and be flabbergasted. Flabbergasted, really. People don't use that enough. I like that. So you can see I'm starting to, obviously, since this guy's my star, I want to put enough time and care into him so he works. It's starting to work better than when I first started. Hopefully you guys are seeing that, because when I first started, it looked pretty crummy. I'm gonna go with a smaller brush right now. Pick up more of I want to get really thick here, but I want to find the back of that neck. Make sure I get them thick enough. I think it's about here. And that didn't stick, so I've got to add a medium. I added some solvent-free gel. Now watch. Boom, it sticks. See that? What a difference. We'll do the top above the ear, about there. He's starting to come out. I still think his head is a little large, but I may be wrong with that too. I think I have his ear too high. I think if I bring that ear down to where it should be, which is about there. Oh, I have a nicer ear. Don't like that edge. It's a little too, drifts out a little too much there. Let's take the front of that face and bring it a little bit. It's got to be dark. Go back to my Van Dyke brown. And let's get the side of that face in. And then we'll add the lights to it. That way I can really tell how the size of that head is shaping up. Still a little long in my estimation. And for that, I will use the background and I will chop away right about there. Change the shape of the front of that face. That's starting to look better. Let's leave it alone. I don't want to fuss on it too much because I won't get enough of the other stuff done. We're going to add texture. Add more texture, a lot of variation. Change that a little darker as it moves up here, a little more ochre. I want to get enough color in this guy. Looks like he's not, there's a lot of color in him, by the way. A lot of color. Subtle and not loud color. when I say color, I don't necessarily mean bright. I mean color variation. Okay, now let's bring his back up because I have it too low. His back is going to come up about where his eye is. His eye is about here. So his back is going to be up higher. There we go. Let's carve that in. Let's get. Now that looks right. I just stepped back. The drawing of the sheep was really bothering me. That's where I was going to lose sleep over it, but to where I think it wasn't the way I wanted it. Okay, now I've got the bulk in there. Didn't have that before.
It was a little thin.
What?
It was a little thin.
It was a scrawny sheep. And you don't want a scrawny sheep. Take it from me. Like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay. Last thing I'm going to worry about is a sheep's face. There's not much of it. It's small. I don't have to. I know I can do it quickly if I have to. Oh, it's fun stuff. Sheep are cool to paint because you can just kind of keep going and going and going because it's wool. It's not anatomy, although it's on anatomy, so I shouldn't knock it. It has to be anatomically. My feeling is it has to be really more proportionally correct. I mixed a little ochre into it as we moved over, so we get it. It's not quite as white. Stepping back, okay, it's working pretty good.
Just be careful of the tripod there.
I will. Don't want to work. Let me look at my. Oh, I'm okay. You can see that's his shoulder right there. Right there. It's a little as comes out a little bit further, and then it works its way down, and then a lot more light working its way. And this is building textures. So that sheep is kind of beginning to work. There's things I do and don't like. And if you're lucky, I'll tell you about them. Went a little lighter here and want to push the lights in the darks. And then right there, darker. Probably cooler too. I'd probably throw a little blue into that. Wouldn't hurt at all. Just throw a little blue-green into that back in here. This is, I refer to color searching, and that's basically what I'm doing. I got the values pretty good, but I'm color searching, trying to find a color that feels right. Don't like that right there, but it's not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I've left myself room, so if I do need to go to a whiter color, I can, because it's Naples and white.
So Sandy's interested to find out what you like and don't like.
What I like and don't like of the sheep, or of the whole painting.
You just mentioned, yeah, things that you don't like.
Oh, things I like. I like the basic value structure. I don't like right in here. This isn't quite right. I need to hit some light on that back leg. The legs are okay. I need to kind of carve them out a little bit more, give a little bit more structure to them. There's some areas right here I don't like that needs to be worked on right there. As it comes up, I'm going to throw a little more umber into it. And there, that feels better. I'm just looking at this, the feeling of the shape of the drawing. You know, I'm drawing with paint. I also think I could get a little bit more color variation in the sheep, but he's not as bad as I thought when I stepped back. You guys are seeing it from a distance. I'm seeing it up close. And I'm working with this number 6, by the way. They're all flats. What?
That's a rosemary flat.
I think so. Most of mine are, so. Okay, that's shaping up okay. I don't like that right there. So when I say I don't like things, it needs to have a little bit more light on it right there. I'm not going to fuss. I think I told you, I'm not going to fuss on that sheep's face for a while. I want to get more of the background in there, get the total painting going. Then we'll come back to it. Okay, let's get more of the total painting. I'm going to move away from this right now, except for right there. I just saw it coming back a little bit more of an angle. And it's warmer. Shoot, I want to move on, but it bugs me. It's warmer right here. And it's warmer right here. So I've mixed a little bit of cad orange hue into that color. And that'll warm it up. Even I see it in here. A little bit of warmth. Boy, I see, if I look carefully, you got those rows of, I'm stepping back, that's off. So those are things I don't like when something's off, but it's close enough where I can actually leave it alone for a little bit. So I'm going to leave it alone. Let's go back up to the foliage because I don't know how much more time I'm going to have to fuss on that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some lighter stuff right in there. I threw some Naples into my greens that I already have mixed up. A lot of terp, so it's kind of watery. So I can kind of scrape paint on top. See. Painting texture, a little bit of texture, a little bit of color. Don't like that at all. So I got to fuzz it out. Kind of go over some of this up in here, paint negatives in between, a little bit of the foliage that overlaps. That's what I'm saying. What I was talking about earlier, you lay the trees in and then you bring some of the foliage back on top, and we put twigs back on, foliage, so you're bouncing back and forth and back and forth. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have enough time to bounce back and forth as much as I normally would if I were doing it more finished. But we'll make it look relatively complete. I've said many times in these kind of, I call them live paintings as opposed to demos, but basically what I end up doing in most of these is getting a pretty good lay-in that I could really, if I wanted to, could really go back and develop further. I generally don't do that. Sometimes I'll put another 10 minutes into it a little bit later. Usually when I break, I get away from it for a little bit and then come back. There's a lot of twigs up in there. I'll get some of those in there, but I don't want to overdo that. You can really get corny with doing too much of that stuff. Let's get a little bit of light on this one tree because that's standing out in the foreground. So I'm going to go back almost to the color I was using on the sheep, but maybe slightly cooler. And we'll start about here. And come up, get some light. Okay. So I'm making a different kind of stroke than when I make the strokes on the sheep, when I make the strokes on the ground. Trying to be firm but loose because it's really just kind of moss that's on the tree. And the moss is a little lighter color. And that's really what we're seeing. We're really not seeing a strong, it's being illuminated a little bit, but not a lot. Okay, that's feeling like a tree now. Took a little bit, but it's starting to feel kind of like I I want it to feel. Again, it's Naples, a little bit of white and a little bit of, I think I'm using the what do you call it, blue, radiant blue. I didn't even think I was going to be using that, but I find it's working really well for this. Some of these, this is probably the wrong brush to use, but I'm going to use it anyway because I've got it in my hand. Just because they're narrower strokes. But that's work. Now that I look at it, I'm going to leave it alone because it's working. And that's an important point. Because what many artists will do is once it starts looking good, they start getting enamored with it. And they say, well, I really like it. And they just keep going. And the best thing you can do, walk away from it, get onto other areas, and then go back and look at it again. It really may not need as much as you initially thought. And what you were probably going to do is overwork it. Standing back, okay. I didn't like it up close. I like it better from a distance. A little bit on the back side, not much, just a little bit. Little bit of volume right there, all the way down here. Too much. A little bit, not quite as cold, but right, hold way back in the brush.
Stephen had another question about what you're working on. What is your, is that it's a stretch canvas? Or,
Yeah, stretch canvas. It is.
and toned?
What?
Toned?
Toned, always toned. Occasionally, and I've done a couple demos on white. I generally don't like working on it. I learned that when I was a student. And even as an illustrator, what I would do is I would get my drawing down sometimes on white, and then I would spray fix it and then tone it over it. So I always was on a tone. I just felt like I want to be able to work with both lights and darks. And if I'm on white, you can't work with whites. You can't work with them because that's your surface. See, that tree's the best part of the whole damn painting, and I want that to be the best part. I'm just gonna look at my time. I'm in pretty good shape. I always think I'm in pretty good shape, and then I always wish I had about 15 more minutes. Story of my life as an artist. I always wish I had more time. A lot of the stuff from this point on is really narrow, and I probably would use and will more of a liner to create it.
I'm always amazed that you can get tiny strokes out of a big brush like that.
I don't like, it's hard to. I'm going to try and do a little bit more interior painting. There we go. That's kind of a blue violet. I'm mixing up a gray blue violet, meaning ultramarine white, a little bit of alizarin in there so it doesn't go too cold and blue on me, but just give a little more texture to that tree. I see it there. here. Also, it makes it feel like you've painted some detail into it, even though you haven't. You've just basically indicated a little bit of interior. I'm going to go a little bit of the cat orange hue into that color, bring it, because I can see it get a little warmer. Not much, just a little bit. And it just gives a little bit of color variation. That's all. Okay. So I'm not going to do a whole bunch more to that tree, simply because I don't have time and it looks pretty good now. And so I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. So we're going to go in with some more background before I get back into my, I'm going to take this a brand new, real cheap liner. Let's see how it works. I don't know. It's not the same ones that I usually use. So a lot of terp into it. And we're going to start right there. Bring it down behind. And bring it from behind. That works. Paint's got to be loose enough. And by that, I mean terp. Medium is not going to loosen it up enough. And you're doing almost like a watercolor technique. These are calligraphic type marks where you're actually drawing. Do too much of it and it'll look terrible.
You have to hold your breath when you do strokes like that.
Yeah, I used to. Now I just do it. If it doesn't work, I figure I'll go back and fix it. Like I've said over and over and over again, it's only wrong if you leave it. Because you're going to do wrong things all the time. That helps a little bit. It doesn't make it feel like it's just mass. There's a whole bunch up in here. So right as we get over in here, I'm just going to start wailing and just kind of do a lot of little strokes overlapping each other. I don't even know if sometimes I'm putting these in the right spot. There is no right spot, truthfully, if you think about it. Because those branches could be anywhere. You want the feeling of correctness and busyness. And there's going to be some darks that we're going to put back in here too. So it's not all lights. Right now, that's what we're dealing with.
So Sandy was saying it really doesn't matter where those strokes go as long as you have the impression, right?
Yes, exactly. Because they could be different. If you get the right value and the right busyness and you're not making ugly, clumsy strokes, then if they're in the wrong spot, only one that's going to know is you guys, because you're the only ones that saw. And unless you're sitting there counting every little branch, I hope you're not, because then you really know I'm wrong. But unless you're counting every little branch, it doesn't matter. Now we've got a few little throwaway in here, up in here. It's on top, but we may have to bring some foliage back over it. Okay. Let's bring a few darks in now. Same thing I just did, except this time with darks. So I'm just go back to my Van Dyke Brown. Same concept. Same exact concept. You're just putting your darks back on. Oops. Getting a little too dry. Not getting a good mark. Now, a few of these come down below. I'm afraid if I get those in there too soon, because I still haven't come back into that area yet. So I may wipe some of them out, but at least they'll give me a feeling as to whether it's going to work or not. Oh, I didn't like that at all. Whew. Get that out of there. Now I really screwed it up, huh? I'll fix that anyway. I need to. Down in here, we get a little. Okay. We got a few of those linear strokes in. Now I'm going to take, go back to this one brush. And we're going to start to add a little illumination back here. But I need to clean my brush first. It's really gunked with a lot of green and darks. And I'm going to use lights. So just pull basically most of the pigment out of it. Not all. I'm going to go back to my Naples now. And probably a little bit of medium. And I'm going to try this with Naples and see what happens. This may be a little too light. Yep, a little lighter than I want, so I'm going to throw just a little bit of ochre into it. A little bit more. We'll try it again. Add some light back here. Let me step. Oh, that's working. Son of a gun. I like it when it does that. You all of a sudden look at it and you go, hey, I guessed right. You know why that's always nice? Because there's a hell of a lot of times you guess wrong. That's why I said I may end up wiping out some of these that I just put in there, but I know I can always put them back in. So we're adding that texture back in there. So oh my God, it's starting to work. Don't like that ground plane. I think I've got an idea as what I can do in there to make it work. Step back. Okay. Now, you know what? I just noted, didn't catch this before. Just caught it now. I'll show you in a second. I'll keep you in suspense for a little bit first.
It seems you notice things as you go along.
Oh, yeah. You do. You think you got it down. And then as you're painting, all of a sudden, oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. Man, I do that in plein air a lot. And that's when you know, part of that is selective editing. But some of the stuff I'm not editing. I just don't see it until I get, you know, it's I always use this line when I wrote this quick studies book, because I really realize it more in that. And that is what you have to do is you have to learn how to see things in the proper order. Don't look at all the detail right at the beginning. Now, here's what I was getting at. I'm going to take a little bit of, I want the same value, but I threw a little bit of Van Dyke Brown to cool it off. I want to keep a lot of medium. Probably too much medium, but, and I've noticed back up in here, negative spaces. Mm. Did you see that before?
No.
Good.
I think what you were saying about seeing things in the proper order is really hard sometimes.
Yep, it is.
Because we notice detail first.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things, truthfully, is to know, not to see. And part of that is knowing that you're not going to finish it for a while, that you're gonna do a lot of fussing on areas. The more you can kind of find areas to keep fussing on and do them in a very free form not a labored manner. And you hold off. Oh, that actually works pretty good. You hold off on finishing, the better off you are. Don't try and finish too quickly. That's why I say these are more of an indication, or they're more of a lay-in, and then you don't have to worry about so many things. You can actually concentrate on some of the smaller incremental things because you've tackled most of the large. Painting negatives and positives, like what I'm doing here. This is negatives. Really add a lot. And add a lot up in here, up in here. You don't want to overpick it though. And that's an easy thing to do, to get to the point where you just, I like that. I think I need to go back with some lighter color. Okay, let's deal with this plane because I want to get back into this guy, and I've got about 20 minutes. So we're going to illuminate this plane. I want to get a little bit of a shadow below him, and which means a darker color. So I added, let's see what this is. That's good. Call this a ground plane shadow. No matter how much sun or how little sun, there's always going to be some sort of a ground that anchors something, a chair, to a ground plane. It's going to anchor a figure. All right, that's one way. Now, that's not the only way, by the way. Oh, I just saw something else that I don't like. So what don't I like? This leg works its way up in here. So this is all kind of a dark. There we go. I like that better. Okay. Same brush. We're going to go back to that ground plane. I'm going to take the Naples. I'm going to take a sap. I'm going to take a yellow and an ochre and a lot of medium, because maybe a little turp and a little medium at the same time. And we're going to start illuminating. And what that's doing right there is showing off that shadow more. You see that? Yep.
Yeah.
I just stepped back for a second to see if I had it right, rather than, I don't want to keep continuing and then spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in an area, step back and realize that you didn't push it enough. So that's why if I get back often enough, I can usually come a lot closer to being accurate. Where's my liner? Let's take. Don't want to do a lot of them, but a little bit can really help. Okay, leave that alone. Felt right there, I was over fussing.
Stephen wants to know what medium you use. Do you mix it with turp?
Yeah, sometimes, but I have 3 mediums. I have solvent-free gel squeezed out of my palette. I have a jar that I've mixed a little bit of linseed or safflower, and I've mixed that with a little bit of actually I have a liquid solvent-free gel in liquid form, and I mix a little bit of that. But and then as to which medium has a lot to do with how the paint is feeling. If I need it looser, then I pick up more turp. Okay. And for the line work, I use more turp.
Turp meaning Gamsol, or?
Turp meaning Gamsol, yeah. That's my old school.
Yeah, we all use.
Yeah, because all we used to ever use was turp. In fact, there was no, when I was in school, there was no odorless turp. So we're all using all those kind of crappy things that smell like crazy. I'm going to change the color up a little bit, go to more ochre, and when the ochre darkened it, so I had to add more white to it when I went to ochre. Just a little bit of some color variation, so I'm not painting with that same green all the time. Make some fast marks and then make some slow marks, some deliberate marks. And knowing how to kind of pace those is you're only going to get that through trial and error. You're going to get it through doing it and not liking it and then doing it again, and don't judge it immediately. So I've got some interesting color going on. Now let's go into that sheep space. What do you say? Said I was going to put that off for a while. What didn't I? So I'm going to go back with one of my liners and I'm going to use a small brush for it, because it's one of the areas there was a little bit more concentration of detail. So now might be the time that I can actually get that. So I see, what do I see on the front of the face? I see it get cooler. So I brought some blue back into some of those browns, get it a little bit lighter. So it's a gray blue, but we're going to come in. I think I'm probably too blue now that I look at it, but for a little bit of unbleached titanium in there, and we're going to come in right. That's a little too light. So thankfully I had wet paint down there and I was able to push it right into that wet paint. So even though I started too light, I was able to, and it goes down on the nose. Some fussing, so to speak. Okay, and then we're getting a secondary, but it's a little darker. So I'm going back to the Van Dyke brown. And we're going to start about here. I'm going to get that ear in first, a little cleaner, because ear overlaps. There we go. And then from the ear, come down here. I'm being much more careful and deliberate than I was in the beginning. I mix that, grade that down a little bit right in here. That's about right too. Sheep's nose is up higher than I had it, so it's up about here. And then the front of his lip, I can see. Some of the stuff is probably is not showing up. It's so subtle. A little bit back towards his eye. These are very subtle tones I'm putting in, but it's starting to give that face a little bit of dimension. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm also going to pick up brush I was using earlier, and we're kind of in between. I have too dark here, so I want to gradate that more. Still too dark. That might be better. These little chunky strokes like this work primarily because I'm painting wool. I'm not painting fur, so I can use these kind of little abrupt kind of abstracty types of strokes. So we're going to come down on that leg a little bit more. Pick a little bit there. And this leg is a little bit thicker. I'm correcting the drawing, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Just fixing drawing. Shapes. Drawing is shapes. So if your shape isn't working, that means your drawing's not working. Okay, it's okay. I still think I can do a little bit better on, I think I have his head just a touch still too large. So what I did is taking this background color, background meaning the wool, it's not really a background. And then we'll take anything I see. Okay, he's looking, the texture on him is actually working pretty well against the rest of the painting. We want to sometimes just illuminating a little bit in between those legs helps them stand out more. Now, as I stand back, that feels too dark right there. And the reason I'm telling you this is some of you asked what I liked and what I didn't like. So I'm trying to be, and I couldn't tell. I want to get more, so more unbleached titanium. It gradates more gradually, and that feels better right now. When I stand back, I like that better than the way I had it initially. So I can take and do something I was going to do earlier, but I said it was too early, and that is add, whoops, got to be looser and sticking. Some of these twigs every time I'm make too many strokes, I pick up the paint underneath. So you might not see it, but I'm constantly dipping down and refreshing the load of paint on my brush. That's why I wanted to get some of those negative spaces in before I put any sort of twigs or branches back on top. Too many of those and it gets corny. It already is getting that way. So
Tom was saying that seeing things as time passes, that's one of the beauties of painting plein air versus taking a quick photo on a hike, to really see and enjoy what you're seeing and capturing it in paint.
you know, the other thing, you're absolutely right. And the other thing about one thing I actually have talked to a couple of my clients. I'm teaching a class this semester where every other week we're out on location. And one of the things that I brought up is as you see subtleties change, you have the opportunity, unless it changes radically, you have the opportunity of adding that. Where when you paint from a photo, you're stuck with that still image and things don't change. And it might be the way light hits a branch. It might just be just a subtle element that you might be able to say, geez, if I add that in there, I'll make it that much better. I'll tell you, I was painting with a class. Oh, boy, is that clumsy. That's what happens when I talk and paint too much. I was painting with a class. This, no, it was last semester, outdoors. And it was a very, very gray morning. And so we talked a little bit about it. And by an hour later, the sun broke through and it started illuminating one of the buildings really nice. And normally I won't do this, but it was so that you're able to say, okay, because the light hasn't changed that radically in 1 hour. It'll change, but in other words, if you add that in there, you're not changing your painting to the point where it couldn't be. So one of the advantages of being able to paint on location like that is to take advantage of those elements when they happen. Fix it, change it. It's one of the great things about working on location. I was painting this about a week ago, and the same thing happened when we were at Stowe Lake. The wind would come up at times, and it would rip the water in such a way that you'd say, "Oh God, look at that little gleam of blue that's in there," and it would just be a gust of wind that happened to have picked it up at that particular moment. But again, if you shot a photo, you wouldn't have seen that. But by waiting, or when a duck would go by and create a trail, a light trail, stuff like that, you don't see. So painting on location is wonderful. I say, for me, painting on location is, I've told a lot of people this, is recreation. I don't consider what I'm doing as finished studio type work, but quite often they'll come out, I shouldn't say quite often, but sometimes they'll come out good enough where I like them better than if I had done the piece in the studio. And so I'll put those into a gallery simply due to that fact. It's great. Everybody's got a different way of looking at plein air. I know that. And my way of looking at it is I look at it as recreation. And I've talked to other friends of mine that are artists. And they say, no, that's me going to the office. And I'm only doing that. In other words, I'm not approaching it like it's going to come out and become I'm approaching it like I want to learn something. I'm going to try something that maybe I wouldn't have tried and see what I can come up with. So it's going to be it serves a different purpose for everybody. I guess that's what I'm getting at. For me, it's not going to the office, it's going to school. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm learning, I'm exploring. And one of the things that I don't do too often myself is you guys probably have seen this, I don't paint the same thing over and over. Now, there's a good point, there's a good side and a bad side to that. Let me tell you the good side. The good side is you learn a lot more. Ready? The bad side is you're not known as a specific artist who does, it is fantastic beach scenes or fantastic vistas or things like that. So galleries often, that may not be what they're after, because they like galleries. You got to remember, galleries they're in business. They're trying to make money off you. All right. So what's happening is you don't want to experiment too much for the sake of a gallery. I think you experiment on your own. And then if it comes out and the gallery likes it, the best example of that is for me to say, look, I did not start as an animal painter or a plein air painter. I started as a I started as an illustrator, so a little bit different. And I was just recently I posted something on Facebook that I happened to a quote that I just saw. I love it. And I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it was at first, every artist was an amateur. And boy, if that ain't the truth. I would go even further. I would say, I truthfully don't know what a professional is, other than the fact that maybe you make your living doing that. But generally speaking, we're all constantly learning. You know, we just went and saw the Sargent show. And when I go to museums, that's like going to school. It's like, nah, okay, I just saw, oh, that's how you do it. I got to go home and try that. Okay, we're about done. Do a little touch up. Pull out that eye, just maybe a little bit more. Probably a little too much there. And a little bit above the eye. Just,
The far back leg.
what's that?
Far back leg kind of looks. It's kind of angle.
The entire back leg needs to have the heel and the knee, which I don't have,
The other back leg.
right there. And this, the other thing is one leg. This leg's in front of this leg, and I don't have it. This leg looks like it's broken.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, you didn't tell me. Let's unbreak it.
Just the angle is a little too severe.
You guys are supposed to be piping up out there and saying, fix that back leg. I got it too skinny, but it's coming along. It's a work in progress. Or as I like to say, and I said this to a couple of students in class this last week, you'll never, ever do a bad painting, ever. You'll just do a lot of unfinished paintings, meaning you can always go back and fix it, provided you know what to do. If you don't know what to do, I don't know what to tell you. Keep hacking away at it till you get it right. That's probably the best. You know what? That's probably the best advice I gave you all morning. Keep hacking away at it until you get it right. Because we all get it wrong all the time. And it's only right when you say it's right. Okay, everybody. Hopefully everybody got something out of this. I got a halfway done sheep. There's a lot of little touches I could play with on this guy, but it's just a matter of kind of going back and forth. And you can build up textures, you can build up colors, subtle variations, and keep going on it and really create something really fun to look at. And this is real thick paint that you see me kind of applying now. Thick and dry. And
Maybe you can photograph that close
yeah,
up.
I'll photograph some, hopefully a couple of details, and I'll probably do a little bit of a touch up on it, but not too much. I never do too much touch up on these things. I do maybe a little bit. Other than that, I want to thank Scott. Let's say I painted a sheep this week. So next week I'll paint something else. I have no idea what. My never-ending quest to try and find different images or different subjects to paint that I actually have some sort of reference on and that I feel I can do in the amount of time that we give ourselves. So it came out okay. I'm not totally disappointed and I'm not totally knocked out, which is generally how I feel about most of the paintings that I do generally. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everyone that watched. And those of you that didn't watch, sorry. Hopefully you'll tune in again as we jump into this next week and price it a little different. Okay. See y'all later. Thanks. Bye-bye.